I see us losing seats if we run on the same discriminatory policies that Pierre Poilievre's had a history of supporting.
Mr. Poilievre is promoting a decentralized currency over his own government's currency. That is a problem.
The women of Canada deserve to know where they stand. And Mr. Poilievre's answer, quite frankly, does not fit that test.
You forgot that you banned natural gas development in your own province. You forgot you brought in a long gun registry. You seem a little bit forgetful about your record, Mr. Charest, but Canadians now remember.
Some pointed jabs at Pierre Poilievre, the perceived frontrunner of this race, in a leadership debate with a heavy focus on policy. The 6 people hoping to lead the Conservative Party faced off on issues like defense spending, immigration, abortion, and gun laws. We showed you some of the highlights at the top of the show. Now for some more analysis from people who know the party very well. I'm here with former Conservative Cabinet Ministers Monte Solberg and Lisa Raitt and Conservative strategist Shakir Chambers. Nice of you all to do this and to give us your perspective. Monte, I'm going to start with you. This was the first time we saw the 6 on stage together, and there was some substantive policy conversations and debate. Was there a moment there where you thought to yourself, "Oh, I know who the leader will be next," or this was a key moment?
Well, I mean, I think the context is important. First of all, Rosemary, I mean, having Pierre up there with the other candidates really was an opportunity, I think, for the other candidates. Pierre has owned the field for the last couple of months. He's been the only candidate initially, and now, he's up there with others. They had a chance to make their point, and they took, they did some damage. No question, he felt the heat on cryptocurrencies, and I think, that said, he's still a front runner. He defended himself when he had to, but he probably didn't do a lot to grow his support tonight.
One of the things that Poilievre announced tonight that he hadn't said before was that he would fire the governor of the Bank of Canada. And there was a lot of time spent on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in fact, that is where Jean Charest really went after Poilievre, Lisa Raitt, to say that some of his comments around that was irresponsible. Do you think that conversation resonates with Conservatives?
I think it does. What I think resonates, though, is the painting of the vision, the picture of what the Conservative Party is going to look like and how they would be as a government. Mr. Poilievre came out and said very transactionally that this is what I would do to deal with the governor of the Bank of Canada. And Mr. Charest came out and he gave a more long answer talking about what the ideal would be in terms of bringing the country together and ensuring that they were moving forward. So different tactics, different approaches for sure. One's more granular than the other. And we got to see it come out. But picking up on just before with respect to what Monte said, I think one of the biggest changes for me was they took out the bully factor at the very beginning, which is nobody in the audience could boo, no one could shout them down. They weren't allowed to say each other's names, and it was awkward. And Tom Clark did his best a job as he could, but it took a lot of heat out, and you didn't have candidates being a little bit spooked from a very popular candidate being on the stage and saying stuff that the crowd really enjoyed in the room. So I thought that was a good thing.
Yeah. Shakir, well, let me ask you that question, riffing off what Monte Solberg said there. Do you think some damage was done to Pierre Poilievre, or do you think he managed to sort of hold his ground, given he was really the person under the most attack, I would say?
I think there was some damage done, but more so because he was so quiet. And I think that kind of lends to the debate rules. If you look at the second half of the debate, I think for the last 30 minutes, Mr. Poilievre didn't say a word. And they had topics like cost of living, energy, things that he's been talking about consistently online, but he had no challenges. He couldn't raise his paddle. You had Patrick Brown, Jean Charest, Leslie Lewis, all attacking him directly, and he had no responses. So I think due to the format of the actual debate, Mr. Poilievre was very quiet, and I think his campaign will view it as a missed opportunity, not being able to talk about the issues that he's really championed since this race began.
We saw the Liberals today, the Liberal government today, talk about both gun control and abortion. They say it was just a coincidence. But I thought both those issues were handled in an interesting way on the debate stage. And I wonder, Monte, whether you think that they sort of neutered the issues for the Liberals, or whether there's any opening there still.
Well, there's not much of an opening. I mean, I think the candidates were pretty disciplined in not rising to the bait, and they've successfully moved on to the issues I think Canadians are more concerned about, which is wise. We've had counsel from senior Conservatives, from Brad Wall to Preston Manning to Jason Kenney, to watch the divisions and stick to the issues that Canadians care about. And I think they did a good job on that. There was some thoughtful discussion, limited to everyone but Pierre Poilievre because of the rules around, for instance, inflation and the cost of living. That's the big issue that people care about. And I thought, all the candidates that came up did a pretty good job on it.
Was there an issue there, Lisa, as you were listening, where you thought that it was a thoughtful and very representative conservative issue that was discussed across the board?
Yeah, but it came in the second half, and I agree with Shakir. I was very surprised that Pierre didn't keep his powder dry for longer so that he could intersect with some of those really important issues that his voice would really strongly come through on. Mm-hmm. For me, it was the discussion with Patrick Brown on gun control. And he really did set out very clearly the concerns in the GTA, the Greater Toronto area that I live in, regarding the amount of guns coming across the border, why it's happening, and the concerns about this revolving door with bail. These are all really conservative principles that we've been talking about for many, many years. And I thought he crystallized the tension between coming out and asking for a handgun ban and the realization is it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Shakir, how about you? Was there an issue there where you felt like it really tapped into what conservatives are worried about right now?
I think less about what conservatives are worried about and more about the strategy of some of these campaigns. Sure. I think the topic that Monte was touching on with abortion, it was very interesting that all the candidates kind of pointed to Pierre Poilievre and said, we want you to declare clearly where you stand on this issue more than one time. And I'm wondering, I heard Ms. Raitt earlier on TV talk about Leslie Lewis supporters. I think it was in the second ballot or the third ballot of the last race. They didn't put anybody on their ballot. So I'm wondering, if Pierre Poilievre doesn't win on the first ballot, he is the kind of the front runner. If he doesn't win on the first ballot, what happens to that, social conservative support? Can he get that? And if he doesn't get that, where does his second ballot support come from, third ballot support come from? So very interesting strategy from the candidates about how they were trying to make him declare clearly where he stood on the abortion debate.
Yeah, Lisa, do you want to weigh in there?
I don't think he declared clearly. I think what he said is exactly what every other leader has said in the Conservative Party, which is fine to say, which is we will not introduce and we will not support legislation. He was the only candidate who did not say personally what his view was. And that's maybe a strategy that Shakir's talking about. But it cuts both ways because, Rosemary, you're not going to stop letting up on that issue.
Well, because it's still an issue, right? And certainly events in the news have made it more of an issue as well. Monte, what did you make of that? And do you agree with Shakir that might be a strategy that Mr. Poilievre is using to make sure he has some openness there to social conservatives?
Well, I think Shakir is correct, though. If Pierre is not going to clearly declare that he's pro-life but won't allow the issue to come back and be a law under him, that may backfire on him, and people may not put him on their second ballot. I think it's a good point.
Do you think someone won or lost this debate, Shakir?
I don't think anybody won the debate, but I mean, for Patrick Brown being in there for that first debate, I think he held his ground, and he's very clear on what his strategy is in terms of who he's targeting, the regions he's targeting, and who he wants to bring into the party to kind of grow his support.
Lisa?
I think the viewer won because it was a debate that we could actually watch.
Yeah, I'm all for that as well. Monte, how about you?
Well, I thought Conservative Party won. We saw a lot of I'll call them secondary candidates who stood up, were credible, clear, articulate, and reasonable. And, Jean Charest had a pretty good night, I would say.
You know what that was? That was a very diplomatic answer. So all of you did very well there.
I am not a hyphenated conservative. I am a conservative, period.
And I'll bring back disillusioned voters. We cannot win if we're not united right of center.
It's not enough just to unite conservatives. We need to win over swing voters, people who aren't part of our party. And I think that's going to be extremely difficult, especially if they watch some of the nastiness on this stage tonight.
Tonight's leadership debate did get personal at times, but it also reflected that this is a contest about the future of the Conservative Party of Canada. So can the party overcome divisions that could be or are being exposed by the race and unite when a winner is chosen? I know you're all going to say probably the party has united in the past and will do it again. But I do wonder, and I'll start with you on this, maybe Lisa, that term that Jean Charest talked about the sort of labeling of conservatism on the stage, who's a real conservative and who's not, who's a hyphenate and who's not. Is there a danger there for the party to be doing that and to have those conversations?
Well, I mean, I've been hyphenated for as long as I've been in the party, and I got to tell you, I don't like it. Yeah. I don't like it. I'm a conservative. That's how I view myself, and I always will be. And I don't like it when somebody else tells me something that they perceive me to be. And infer that it's lesser of them. I think it's a big problem. I don't like it. I dislike it. And I like the fact that somebody is calling it out. And I'm glad that Mr. Charest did it, because he represents and speaks for a lot of us in the party who don't want to be known as a one-trick pony. I've got a lot of views.
Yeah. Monte Solberg, what do you make of that? That there are sort of people who are more conservative or less conservative, and that this is about choosing the more conservative leader, or not the best, but the person who is defined as the most conservative?
Well, the best way to overcome all those divisions is to put forward a vision, a positive vision, a practical vision. This is really a conservative time in Canada. People want to end the excessive inflationary spending. They want safe streets. They want a strong military. They want affordable oil and gas. So it's really, I think, up to the next Conservative leader to not mess that up. Conservatives are leading in the polls right now, despite not having a permanent leader, in many polls anyway. And I think we can bring it home if we have a message of, that positive vision that I've talked about, that pulls people together, irrespective of their views on some of these more controversial subjects, because they rally around the things we agree on.
Sure, and I mean, maybe you all will get to that point after the leadership race, but I'm not sure that's what we saw on that stage, Shakir. There's a lot of pointing fingers about what kind of conservative everyone is.
Yeah, I think there were some personal attacks, but I don't think there was really much difference in terms of what kind of conservative there are. I mean, look, if you look at the energy section, a lot of agreement there. Look at the North, a lot of agreement there. I don't think it's a red Tory, blue Tory divide. I really think if you look at someone, for example, Pierre Poilievre, who folks would say is more right wing, look at the issues he's talking about: cost of living, inflation, affordability issues. Those are not right-wing issues. Those are just issues people care about. Jean Charest is doing a very similar thing. He might have different solutions, but I don't think it's a divide in terms of, who's more moderate, who's not more moderate, who's blue, who's red. I think it's just, what are your solutions? What is your vision, like Monte said?
Yeah, I think probably the solutions that Pierre Poilievre has might be more right-wing. People would probably agree with that. So is this something then that can be, like as you were a leadership candidate, Lisa, is this something that can be easily overcome? People just put this behind them and move on? Or do we see on these stage people that we will never see again because they won't want to be part of a party led by someone else?
No, I don't think that. I mean, we've had that happen once, and that was Maxime, and that we know how that has turned out. The one part that I most value about my colleagues in the Conservative Party of Canada is that once we have a leader, we will rally behind the leader, and we will do whatever we can to get that leader elected. Now, if they don't get elected, we can tell that all bets are off.
Yes.
However, they get the one chance, and they will get all of our effort and all of our help to make happen, which is what we want to happen, which is for the Conservatives to form a government once again.
10 seconds to you, Monte, on that, whether you can overcome divisions.
Yeah, no question. Again, it's got to be around issues that resonate with regular Canadians and also the Conservative Party. That should be fairly easy to do. Canadians are ready for a big change.
As the Adishu panel always says to me, when there's a winner, you can pretty much forgive anything. So that's what you're all agreeing on tonight. Thank you all so much for staying up and giving us your perspective. Monte Solberg, Lisa Raitt, Shakir Chambers. Hope we'll talk again soon. Thank you.